To ask the First Minister what engagement she has planned for the rest of the week.
First Minister.
Engagements to take forward the Government's programme for Scotland.
Kezia Dugdale.
A new report today from the Sutton Trust exposes the SNP's catastrophic failures on education.
Order, please.
They can groan all they like, Presiding Officer, but it's true and they should read it. And in the subjects most important to growing Scotland's economy in the future, young people are being let down. Despite the hard work of pupils and teachers, the SNP's failure is there for all to see. And time again, I have come here and argued that the SNP are leaving the poorest children behind. Now this report shows that they are also holding the brightest children back. The First Minister said education would be her defining priority. So why is her government failing a whole generation of children?
First Minister.
Again, at risk of repeating the answers I gave earlier, this is an important report. I absolutely and readily accept that. But the data in this report is based on a survey carried out 2 years ago. Now, why that is significant is that that predates the programme of reforms that we have underway. It predates the additional resources we have made available through the Attainment Challenge and the Attainment Fund. These approaches are not just getting additional resources into the hands of head teachers. They are introducing standardised assessments so that we track the progress of our young people more routinely and more robustly, and they are leading to the publication of more transparent data and information on an ongoing basis about Scottish education on a school-by-school basis so that we can track our progress. Now, these are important reforms. I think every politician in this chamber who raises these issues is absolutely right to do so, such is their importance. But I think they also have an obligation to get behind the reforms that we are introducing, because on some of these reforms we've seen members on the Labour benches, having initially backed them, when they come under some pressure on them, decide that they don't back them after all. I would say that this Sutton Trust report underlines the importance and the necessity of those reforms to education. That's why I hope all members across this chamber will enthusiastically back them.
Kezia Dugdale.
Clear from that answer, Presiding Officer, that when the First Minister runs out of excuses, she just repeats them. And she dismisses the report in today's paper, but she can't dismiss every single report that preceded that. And the question is, how many reports does she have to get about the state of education in Scotland before she accepts the simple truth at the heart of each and every one? Because when you cut through all of that, there is a simple truth missed by both the SNP and the Tories. If we want to give young people the best possible chance in life, we have to invest in them, and that means investing in local schools. What we get from the SNP, though, is £1.5 billion worth of cuts since 2011. In Naomi Eisenstadt's original report, that's the one that wasn't rewritten by the First Minister, the Independent Poverty Advisor said this: any reduction in these services would be damaging for low-income households. Who should we believe, the First Minister or her own poverty advisor?
First Minister.
Well, firstly, in terms of Kezia Dugdale's first comment in that question, I didn't dismiss the Sutton Trust report, and anybody watching this at home will have heard me say it is an important report that aids our understanding of the challenges we face. I simply pointed out the fact that it is based on data that is already 2 years old and predates the work that we are doing. And in terms of previous reports that Kezia Dugdale also wrongly claims that I'm dismissing, the Sutton Trust report published this morning, which I have read, is based on the PISA report that was published in December. It's not new data. That does not make it unimportant, but it is an important contextual point to make. And in terms of Kezia Dugdale's point about investment in schools, absolutely, she is right, which is why we have established the Attainment Fund. The Attainment Fund is putting £120 million in the coming financial year into the hands of head teachers in 95% of schools across this country. It adds to the £50 million that we were already investing in the Attainment Challenge. That is the kind of investment that, yes, we need to see in our schools, the kind of investment that this government is delivering in our schools. And my last point on budgets, we have heard week in and week out in this chamber, Kezia Dugdale stand up here talking about what she claims are council cuts. And yet this week we started to see Labour councils, Inverclyde yesterday, deciding that they have enough money available to them without using the flexibility we have given councils on council tax. Labour here repeatedly say that tax rises are necessary to protect services like education, but we have Labour councillors now saying the opposite, that Scottish Government funding is enough so that they don't have to raise council tax. That proves the point that we are giving the resources to local councils to enable them not just to protect services, but in the case of education, to get more money into the hands of those who run our schools.
Kezia Dugdale.
Also, the First Minister has just told us that she's giving councils the resources they need. But what we've just heard is that she's putting in £120 million and taking out £1.5 billion from local services. You've been in power for 10 years, First Minister, and that is your record. And the Sutton Trust report proves beyond all doubt that teachers need more support to give young people the skills they need for the future. But under the SNP, there are 4,000 fewer teachers in Scotland. And we've lost 826 science and maths teachers since the SNP took office. It's no wonder John Swinney had to launch a recruitment drive for teachers yesterday. Here we have it. Teacher numbers down, the attainment gap winding. The only thing on the up under the SNP is cuts to schools. Even with a record this poor, our primary people can do the math. Why can't the First Minister?
First Minister.
Kezia Dugdale certainly can't do the math. Maybe she should ask Stephen McCabe, the leader of Inverclyde Council, to do it for her. As a result of the changes announced by Derek Mackay in this chamber last Thursday, there is now £400 million of additional resources available for local services. That is the reality, and that includes £120 million available for head teachers to deliver improvements in our schools. And for Kezia Dugdale to stand up here today and talk about cuts in local services the day after the Labour leader of Inverclyde Council took to social media to boast that he had enough money that enabled him to become the leader across Scotland that had frozen the council tax for longest. Labour go on contradicting themselves. Well, as Labour go on contradicting themselves from the sidelines, we will get on with delivering the improvements in education that parents and children have a right to expect.